Okay, in this video I'm going to go through some of the problems in homework 11. I'm not going to do any of these proofs entirely, but I'll show you how some of them go. So first, for this one, exercise 11.2. Okay, so for this one, I have these three premises, which are all conditionals, and there's not really anything I can do with these premises. To do arrow-a-limb, of course, you know that you need to have the antecedent, and I don't have the antecedent for any of these conditionals. So the first thing I'm going to do is make an assumption. My conclusion, of course, is if not J, then H. So I'm going to start with this assumption. And of course, the purpose of this subproof is to use the arrow introduction rule. So I know that down here somewhere in this subproof that started with not J, I'm going to want to have H. That is the consequent of the conditional that I'm trying to get. So I don't know how many lines it is. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to get it, but I want to end this subproof with H so that on the next line, after I close the subproof, may or may not be line 12, but whatever it is, I'm going to be able to put J arrow H, and that's going to be for arrow intro. It's going to be 4 through something. Okay, but back up here, I've got not J, so that means I can do arrow-a-limb on line 2. Okay, so that's really the only thing that I can do with not J, and this F or H might be might be helpful in the future, but I can't do anything with it right now. So I need to make another assumption, and of course I want H eventually, so I'm going to assume the opposite of what I want. So I'm going to assume not H, and the purpose of making this assumption is to do the negation elimination rule. So I'm going to have, again, a subproof here. I don't know how many lines it's going to be, but when I finish it, I'm going to be able to put H on this line here, the first line that comes after this second subproof. And of course, the H is going to be back up against the line for the first subproof. Okay, so, and I also know, of course, that I need a contradiction here at the end of this second subproof. All right, so now what do I have with not H? Well, now I can do wedge-a-limb, so that's going to give me F. Okay, so now that I have F, I can do conditional limb with lines 1 and 3. And let's see, if I do conditional limb with line 3, I can get G. If I do it with line 1, I'm going to get G arrow H. If I have the G, then I'm going to be able to do conditional limb just on whatever line that has G arrow H on it. That's going to get me H, which of course is going to be a contradiction with the not H that I have here on line 6. So I can see that it's going to take a few steps, but I'll be able to get my contradiction. I'll have H here, and then just straight away I can go not J, arrow H. All right, so I'll let you finish that one. Okay, so next I'll do this 11.4. All right, so I have this one premise, and there's not anything I can do with just that, so I'm going to make an assumption. And my conclusion, of course, is not, in parentheses, P and Q. So I'm going to assume the opposite of what I want, which is going to be just P and Q. Okay, so my goal, of course, is going to be to get a contradiction, and then I can do negation introduction and get not, in parentheses, P and Q. So somewhere, again, at the end of the proof, I don't know how many lines it will be, I'm going to have this. But up here, P and Q, so I can see that that's going to let me do and a limb and get both P and Q. I may not need both of those, but I can put them on separate lines. And okay, so now I can see that if I do double negation to get not P, then I can do wedge-a-limb on line 1. That's going to get me not Q. Okay, so I need to have a Q right after the not Q, but then that's going to be my contradiction. And once I have that, then I can go straight away to what I have here on this last line. All right, last. Okay, for this one, the only thing I can do is and a limb on line 1. I'm not quite sure if that's going to be useful, but I can do it, so I'm going to. Okay, so now I have these two conditionals and not B. All right, but still I can't really do anything with what I have, so I'm going to make an assumption. And my assumption is going to be not C, which is the opposite of what I want. Okay, so I know, again, somewhere down here I'm going to get C, hopefully. That's going to be negation of limb, lines 5 through something. All right, so with not C, I can't actually do anything with that either, except if I get a contradiction, I'll be able to get my conclusion. So I'm going to make another assumption here, and that is going to be, let's see, actually A or not A might work equally well, but I'll just do A. All right, so I have A, then now I can do arrow a limb on line 3. Okay, so I need to be under this second subproof, of course. Arrow a limb 3 and 6. All right, so now, okay, so no problem. I can get a contradiction because I've got the B there in line 2. So I do that. That's going to get me not A back here against the vertical line for this first subproof. That's going to be negation intro. Let's see. So now that I have not A, I can do arrow a limb again. That's going to get me C, which will, of course, be a contradiction with not C. So I move everything around. So I got the contradiction on 2 adjacent lines. And then I'll be able to close this first subproof that I started and get C. Might not actually be all the way down to 14. I'm not sure. But anyway, you can see how that goes. So I'll let you do it. All right. Good luck. Again, if you have any questions, you can email me.